Welcome to a special episode of Friends and Film, a podcast where we talk about the latest movie news and theatrical releases. I'm your host, Cooper Hood at Coops_Hoops on Twitter. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Josh Straley at Straley Strong on Twitter. If you've not done so already and are new to the show, you can follow or subscribe to the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube just by searching Friends and Film. Josh, what's going on?
Cooper, it's time for the apocalypse.
That's right. We are here today for a special episode. We're getting us a lot more than normal. It's summertime, so we have a little more free time.
Jam-packed week, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We'll have 3 episodes out this week. You guys will either be hearing this Wednesday night or Thursday, depending on how generous I feel, giving you guys lead time before you go see Apocalypse. So yeah, we're going to be doing a preview episode of X-Men Apocalypse. Should be shorter episode than normal. We're definitely not going to go over an hour, hopefully no more than 45 minutes for you guys. But we'll see where it takes us. If we get into a really interesting conversation, we're not just going to stop it.
Yeah, especially if we try to piece together the X-Men universe.
Yeah, that could be a 6-hour podcast.
Yeah, or a week's worth. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, we're just going to be basically giving our expectations, breaking down what we think could happen, talk about the characters, and then speculate on how it's going to end, and who knows what else we're going to talk about. So before we get into it, I'll give you guys, if you're not familiar with the movie or you haven't seen any of the trailers or anything, here's a quick plot synopsis for you. Since the dawn of civilization, he was worshipped as a god. Apocalypse, the first and most powerful mutant from Marvel's X-Men universe, amassed the powers of many other mutants, becoming immortal and invincible. Upon awakening after thousands of years, he is disillusioned from the world as he finds it and recruits a team of powerful mutants, including a disheartened Magneto, to cleanse mankind and create a new world order over which he will reign. As the fate of the Earth hangs in the balance, Raven, with the help of Professor X, must lead a team of young X-Men to stop their greatest nemesis and save mankind from complete destruction.
Ooh.
Yeah, so big stakes here in the X-Men world,
to say the least.
So before we get, into our complete expectations for the movie and everything, I thought it'd be a good idea just to give kind of our overall thoughts on not the entire X-Men universe, but at least the 1.5 films that actually have events that play into this upcoming film, that being X-Men First Class and all of the events that in the past in X-Men Days of Future Past, because none of that future stuff actually happened.
Right.
So very complicated cinematic universe for Fox and X-Men, for everybody trying to follow along. First Class for me is my favorite X-Men film. I just love the young new cast that they brought in with that film. Was a nice way to reinvent the franchise after the first trilogy trailed off really hard there at the end, and then the Wolverine movies didn't do nearly as good as they thought. So I mean, I love Jennifer Lawrence, McAvoy, Fassbender, Nicholas Hoult. Just that whole cast in that first movie was great. And I love the way that they brought in the Cuban Missile Crisis and everything, tied into actual events that took place back then. And then Days of Future Past would be, right around probably 3. It's close between that and then the first 2 X-Men
Which
films.
one of the first 2 would you rank over the other? It's got to be X2.
Yeah, it probably is X2. Just barely. It'd probably be X2, Days of Future Past, and then X-Men.
Got it.
But I just thought Days of Future Past was a great way of rebooting the universe, basically, in a way I didn't think they could do it, even though it did scrap, some good and some really bad X-Men movies from canon.
Totally.
But I really liked what they did. And it brings us into Apocalypse now, so lots of interesting possibilities.
There's, like you just... Days of Future Past, to me, is one of the greatest ways that a comic book universe wrote themselves out of such a deep hole. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm a little bit frustrated now that it's so unclear what in the world things are like going forward. But you totally hit the nail on the head when you said that First Class built itself around such an awesome time in like, history. I mean, the Cold War is some of the most like tense time periods in American history. I mean, outside of maybe like the Civil War or whatever the case may be. So them putting First Class around there is awesome. And then just like you said, it's probably my favorite X-Men movie too. X2 coming second, Days of Future Past following third. And like I just said, Days of Future Past was a example of how great writing can get you out of a jam and make people excited about a franchise again.
Yeah. Yep. It did a great job rebooting the universe, bringing back the new cast from the new trilogy, but also bringing in characters from the original trilogy and stuff, and introducing brand new characters, sadly enough, that we'll probably never see again because that movie took place so far in the future that, I mean, if Fox continues at their pace of doing one X-Men movie and then having it be a decade each, then I guess we'll catch up there in like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, but on how often they put an X-Men team movie out. But yeah, so First Class and then the past parts of Days of Future Past are the only things that are canon now in X-Men. Well, plus Deadpool, obviously, and then Wolverine 3 will be canon, I would assume.
I guess, yeah.
That's the tricky part about all this. But as far as X-Men Apocalypse goes, it's out internationally right now, and it's been being started screening for critics 3 weeks ago. The embargo lifted the Monday after Civil War came out. I don't think we covered it on any of our episodes, what the reaction was to it, but right now it sits with a 52% on Rotten Tomatoes, so definitely not what Fox probably wanted from this movie, but from everything I've seen, it's a 52% because it's really mixed. I mean, I've seen people that absolutely love it and say it rivals the best X-Men movies. Some people say, I mean, it's a top 3 in all of the X-Men movies, and then some people are just like, it doesn't work. There's too many, like the plot's bad, acting's bad, like everything's just bad in the movie. It's just like, okay,
I know the acting's not bad.
You would imagine so, yeah.
You look at the cast and it's mind-blowingly great.
Yeah, so maybe the writing is just not strong. Maybe the directing, I don't know. We haven't seen it, so we can't judge that yet. But as far as what I'm expecting a good movie that's probably going to have some inconsistencies in terms of plot or canon. But ultimately we'll have plenty of like fun, cool moments that I'll be like, yeah, okay, that was cool. Like, still my favorite thing from the trailers is Storm and Cyclops squaring off, and her lightning and his rays are just like clashing, and there's like an extended, I saw like a TV spot of him like trying to like chase her down basically, and he's like sweeping across, and it looks really cool. So I think visually, that I'm assuming what that is, the final battle or something, that will be awesome. But how they explain kind of the fallout or don't explain the fallout from Days of Future Past, and rewrite some of the stuff that happened in previous movies that aren't canon anymore, like how Wolverine got his claws, even something as simple as like how Jean Grey was recruited, the year won't match up at all. So like there's like little things that are like, those are kind of like bug me at the time watching them, because it's like I still have memories of those older movies, but ultimately I can't like what's the word? I can't criticize it because like it already wrote all that stuff away.
Sure, once it retconned the original X-Men trilogy, you have to sort of like in your mind just accept that, okay, that everything in that is just gone.
Yeah.
It has no bearing whatsoever on this.
Yeah.
Timetables and ages and all that jazz.
Yeah. So it's weird, but there's reboots and redoing of franchises all the time in Hollywood now, so it's become something that, getting used to, unfortunately. But if I were to give like an expected rating for the movie, when we actually do review it next week, I would say I'm expecting a 3.5 ticket stubs.
Yeah, I think that follows right along with what I'm thinking. I mean, you said, literally word for word, how I'm thinking this is going to go. I think it's going to be highly entertaining. Every X-Men movie I've watched, whether it's the original trilogy, the Wolverine Origins, the Wolverine, or First Class, Days of Future Past, Deadpool, they're fun, and you can't take that away from the franchise. The action is going to be awesome. I can't wait to see Psylocke in action. Olivia Munn in the role there, so I think that's going to have some sweet moments to it. She's already kicked some serious butt in the trailers, so can't wait to see that more. But like you said, I think the story is going to be lacking somehow. I don't know where, and I don't know when. I just know that I'm going to see something and hear something and be like, but how does that, but you just, no, wait, and then it'll bug me, like you said. Whether it's fixing or talking about the fallout from having a baseball stadium dropped around the White House, or just moving forward with world events. And like there's a shot in the trailer where all the intercontinental ballistic missiles are being launched, and it's like, how does somebody stop that? Like I know one of those is gonna have to go off or something.
Unless it's a dream.
Yeah.
Or a vision.
Ooh.
Which that's what I kind of think will happen. That's like that's part of Jean Grey's vision of the future.
That's okay. That'll make me feel a whole lot better.
I can't, I don't know how the X-Men would have time to stop Apocalypse and a nuclear strike all in the same, unless the nuclear strike was on Apocalypse.
Oh.
But that would still be really weird decision by
someone would have to contain the nuclear fallout, and unless Magneto somehow flips back onto the other side,
maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, so it'd be tough to contain a nuclear explosion.
Exactly, but highly entertaining. The action's going to be awesome, but I just think the story is going to let me down somewhere along the line, and if it doesn't, I see myself giving it probably a 3.5 at the highest. Worst case scenario where it's not entertaining, there's no awesome action, like a 2. But
so you can't see it getting over 3.5.
I can't. But I mean, I've been wrong before on so many occasions, so we'll find out. Yeah.
So, what about box office? Because we all know you're a stellar box office predictor.
Okay, unless you count Star Wars. I have a pretty good track record, especially on Batman versus Superman. But I'm giving it $95 million domestic opening weekend.
Yeah, and tracking, as I heard, I think I saw this today, it was between 80 and 100 million domestically on the 3-day weekend. Well, actually... yeah, we'll only count the 3-day because it is Memorial Day weekend. True. So it could factor in and give it a boost. Kids are coming off of school.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has the Alice in Wonderland sequel comes out this week. And even though I have no intention to see it, there's plenty of other competition for the movie. So I'm going to give it 85 million.
Yeah, that's respectable.
So now let's talk about kind of the plot of the movie. Okay, we got our expectations out of the way, but we're gonna try to predict what we think is gonna happen, how it's gonna happen. So for me, kind of how I think the events or how the movie's gonna play out, we'll start, and very early on we'll get the origin of Apocalypse, because you can't have a movie called X-Men Apocalypse without telling us how he became known as Apocalypse. And then he'll go and find his horsemen, and throughout this time we'll kind of be flashing back and forth between his journey and then, the actual X-Men and Professor X and stuff, figuring out and hearing about this stuff and learning, okay, who this guy is and everything. That's where probably Rose Byrne comes into play. And then at some point, Apocalypse, for some reason, needs Professor X. And so then him and his 4 horsemen go to the mansion, take Professor X, then Raven becomes the default leader of the X-Men. She trains up the newbies, and then they all go to battle Apocalypse. They defeat Apocalypse, and then at the end of the movie, there's a brand new X-Men team. So that's a very broad, quick, I guess, plot synopsis for how I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that you basically said what I was thinking too. You have to have an origin story. Somebody's gonna drop a rock down a well that wakes him up, or his alarm clock goes off, or whatever the case is. So Apocalypse, like you said, he has to have his 4 horsemen. So whether it's picking up Storm or anyone else, Angel, or whoever else is on his team. It's got to send a signal to Charles that some dude is, getting a posse together to take over the world or destroy it. That'll lead him to, finding all the historical records of what he's done. And then I imagine he'll try to recruit some people, or at least get them up to, train, up to snuff, get the trainees ready. And then, we see a huge intervention happening in the trailers at the mansion. So I'm assuming that's what brings Mystique back, or gets her to finish the recruiting and start the training. Huge battle. Magneto flips sides somewhere in the middle of that, as we see in the trailer, or maybe that's just a misnomer. We don't know. But then ultimately,
wait. When do we see Magneto switch sides in the trailer?
He talks to Charles, and Charles is like, "Please don't join him." And then he's like, "Dude, you knew I was gonna join him." And then he jumps over and starts helping out Apocalypse, what it looks like.
Oh, okay. I thought
you thinking the other way
I thought
around?
You meant he was going to jump and help the X-Men. I was like,
oh, no.
When did that happen in the trailer?
No, yeah. I mean, it could happen. I mean, I don't know. Anything can happen in this universe.
Sure.
But ultimately, I think Jean Grey saves the day. I mean, it seems like things are centered around her in the trailer, and she's arguably the most powerful X-Men there. Mm-hmm. So once that happens, like you said, new X-Men team, and we move forward.
Yeah, I think that's a good call with Jean Grey kind of saving it or defeating Apocalypse. They keep teasing this Dark Phoenix saga is going to play out in the next X-Men movie. So if she somehow loses control, or just experiments with the full power of her abilities, and then she becomes slightly unhinged because of it, or just has a bad reaction to her, whatever the case may be, I think that's probably what would happen.
Do you think there's any possibility that some Apocalypse survives, or some part of him does, and maybe that's the antagonist to the Dark Phoenix trilogy that they've been teasing, or not trilogy, but plot? Could somehow his power-hungry spirit or destructive mindset linger? Because
maybe, I mean, from the trailers we've seen that Oscar Isaac's character is not inhabited, is not born Apocalypse. Apocalypse kind of takes over that guy's body, whether that's as a sacrifice that Oscar Isaac's character makes, or he's forced to do that, whatever the case may be. Maybe somehow he right before he dies, he transfers his soul to another being, or to another place in the planet or galaxy. I mean, I have no idea. I'm not very familiar with Apocalypse and his powers.
Me neither. That's why I asked. I mean, I feel like you setting up Apocalypse, it sounds like the baddest guy in the X-Men universe, only to build him up, then off him in one movie, seems like a waste. But
yeah, but I mean, it is unfortunately kind of the superhero trend where you get a villain per movie,
right?
And you don't kind of get these long overarching villains. So it would be cool, but I can't see that happening, because I mean, personally, I'm more interested in seeing the conflict between Magneto and Professor X, and their conflicting ideologies going back and forth. And that was what made the first X-Men trilogy, even though The Last Stand is not a good movie, they still have that contradiction. And even in X-Men 2, they team up out of necessity because they have to stop Stryker from basically killing all of them. So I'd rather get back to that, but with them going into space, it sounds like, for the next one, I have no idea. It probably won't be that way, unfortunately. But let's get into some of the characters themselves. And since we're kind of talking about, where Fassbender's loyalties will lie, his future, whatnot. I'm not. They have to be very careful with how they do this for me, because with him being one of the Four Horsemen, I don't want to see Magneto be like a pawn to somebody that either if he doesn't believe in the cause and he's just kind of taking over, then I'm not gonna like that. But I also kind of it has to be something that Magneto already kind of believes is a necessity, and then Apocalypse gives him, because Apocalypse enhances the powers of his Four Horsemen. So Magneto realizes, okay, if I join him temporarily, I'll be more powerful and I'll be able to do what I always want to do, and that's make the mutants the top of the chain. So for me, they have to be very careful with not making him not diminishing how good of a villain he is.
Yeah, ruining his character by letting him fall for, cheap tricks or getting possessed by somebody, and Michael Fassbender is just rendered as a yes man.
Yeah, exactly. Because even dating back to when it's Ian McKellen, he's just a smart and kind of heartless villain that also has a heart because he cares about all mutants up until The Last Stand.
Right.
He just sacrifices loads
exactly.
of them. So yeah, I've really loved Fassbender as Magneto in his 1.5 appearances as him. And I want to see more of him, and I think we will see more of him. Does that kind of line up with what you're thinking, with how you want Magneto to be utilized in this film?
Yeah, you don't want to see someone's character kind of just written off real quick. As long as he maintains who we've come to know him as in this in their X-Men movie universe, then yeah, I don't want to have him just totally rewritten because of whatever happened in Days of Future Past.
Yeah. Now, what about Professor X?
Regarding what?
Just I don't know what you think his motivations are going to be, kind of his overall role in the film.
I really think that he's getting, like I said in my plot synopsis, I think he's getting kidnapped. I don't know how early. I would say maybe the beginning of the second act, which starts Mystique's training of all the new mutants, and then eventually he's going to have to get free and then lead the new team. But I'd be really disappointed if there's not some kind of side plot where he's learning about Apocalypse and maybe his potential weaknesses or his plans for the planet and things like that.
Yeah, I think he's definitely getting kidnapped. We've seen it in the trailers where he's getting pulled across the hallway to Team Apocalypse, basically, as they're kind of squaring off.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that he is going to be missing for a lot of the movie, but I think he's going to also be kind of trying to figure out if Apocalypse is actually a good guy or not.
Oh yeah.
He's going to be okay, because we don't really know what Apocalypse's goal is besides just kind of world domination and making and kind of ruling over the world. But I think Professor X is, he has the ability to look in people's heads. Can he do that with Apocalypse? I don't know. Does Apocalypse just want him for those abilities? I mean, there's a shot in the trailer where Charles is using Cerebro and his eyes just go black and he goes, I've never felt power like this before. And I don't think that that's actually...
You think it's Apocalypse?
I think it's
head?
Apocalypse inside of him. And he's accessing Cerebro to realize how many mutants there really are, number one, but also just how powerful he could be with Professor X's powers. Because, like, in the older movies, like, they mentioned that if Charles wanted to, he could kill anybody with just like a thought, just like as long as he's connected to like Cerebro.
Right.
So if that's what Apocalypse wants, then he could hook up. He could be inside or influencing Charles, hook him up to the machine, and then wipe out anybody he wants in a matter of seconds. So I think he's going to be a really interesting character to follow throughout. The one that seems like is going to have almost or possibly the biggest role is going to be Raven.
Totally, I agree.
Which I don't have a problem with because I'm a fan of Jennifer Lawrence and the way she's portrayed Mystique. But at the same time, they have to make the distinction at some point with Mystique, whether she's good or bad. She can't flip-flop every single movie or sometimes multiple times within a movie. I mean, if this is the movie where she does become the leader of the X-Men or something, or a team of X-Men at the end, then she needs to stay that way for at least one full movie after.
Yeah, totally.
So I think they're going to deal a lot with her, inner turmoils of, okay, do I stay and coach? And like, she thinks she's not a hero, but everybody else thinks she is. So how does she view herself? Stuff like that. Is that similar to what you're thinking?
Oh, totally. I think we said throughout our trailer talk over these last couple months that she looks like she's going to be who the story kind of revolves around through the majority of the movie, at least her conflict between should I stay or should I go, because we've seen First Class tendency towards good, but then flip-flopped over to evil. And then in Days of Future Past, she's, got her mind set on doing something evil. And then she's like, but oh no, I really want to be good. And then she just walks off in the end, kind of standing in between.
But also kind of being evil because she kidnaps Wolverine.
That's true. Yeah.
Which won't be answered, I'm sure.
Right. Which, I want to say, like, but that's unclear about what the Wolverine thing is, too. I mean, it's like she, if the trailer's correct, she just actually impersonates some guy and then gives him over to that exact guy. So it'll be, I totally agree with you. It'll be interesting to see what, if anything, puts her completely on the good side, or joining the X-Men for good,
or the bad side, whichever one they choose.
Right.
They just need to choose.
Exactly.
Now we've already kind of gone over Apocalypse and kind of his intentions, but they have Oscar Isaac, who's coming off of Star Wars.
Ex Machina.
He's a very talented actor, and he's covered in blue paint, just like a few other. I think there are 4 blue people in this movie between him, Mystique, Nightcrawler, and Beast.
Yeah.
So, very interesting. I mean,
we definitely know what color the makeup department you did the most of.
Yeah, no kidding. But do you think that Apocalypse, when everything is said and done and he is most likely defeated, that he will be a worthwhile villain that actually lives up to his name?
I think he'll live up to the name, but I don't think we'll be ultimately satisfied with what we saw or how we came across. I mean, Apocalypse, he's gonna level at least 3 or 4 cities.
He's got to.
By name alone. So outside of that, I think we're going to be like, but why did he want to do all that again? Or like how,
Yeah.
and there's going to be a 100 questions that we're going to have about him that his historical, the history of him didn't give us.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I think, I think he'll have plenty of cool moments where you're like, oh, snap. Like, I see why it's called Apocalypse, but at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, like, he wasn't like that threatening, either in the way that they actually do defeat him or in terms of just like his overall plan or something. I know something's gonna feel off about how he should be.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the actual X-Men, I mean, we have Beast, Quicksilver, the new Jean Grey played by Sophie Turner, the new Cyclops played by Ty Sheridan, Lucas Till's returning as Havoc, and Cody Smith-McPhee is in there as Nightcrawler. So out of all those X-Men, which one do you think is going to be your favorite? And maybe which one will be your favorite, and maybe which one will have the biggest role?
Okay, well, easily my favorite's going to be Evan Peters as Quicksilver. Peter Maximoff was awesome in Days of Future Past. He has my favorite scene probably in the entire X-Men series is when I don't know what song it is, but it starts playing, he pops his goggles on, and then he just whips across the room, taking out all the armed guards when they're rescuing Magneto. It's just so awesome. And I think I'm going to have the most fun seeing him on screen, especially because he's a wise guy.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. But I think Sophie Turner's Jean Grey is going to be, have the biggest role out of all of them, because I think she ultimately defeats Apocalypse in the end.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I don't know. I think Beast always has kind of those that medium-sized role where he's kind of there, but he doesn't actually do anything.
Right.
Really. He's kind of along for the ride. You're like, oh yeah, Beast is there.
We need him. What is he actually going to do? I don't know. Just get him.
We're just gonna need a big, strong, fast blue guy to do something. Totally. Yeah, I think Quicksilver will probably have the best scene. I mean, I've heard that the new scene that he's featured in, the new Quicksilver slow-mo scene, took him a month to film.
Ooh.
That's how long it is.
Okay.
So and complicated.
Now.
So I think that'll probably be one of the standout scenes of the movie. And even all of his one-liners I've seen in the trailers and stuff. Hopefully those aren't all of them. Because I like him, and he's like, oh yeah, Magneto's my dad, and then Mystique's like, what? And he's like, yeah, him and my mom, she's like, I know how it happened. And you're like, of course.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I just saw one the other night on Jimmy Fallon. Jennifer Lawrence was there, and they showed a clip, and it's her and a jet with all the other new X-Men. I think it's when they're gonna go fight Apocalypse, I would assume. And it's Mystique saying, I don't think of myself as a hero, so you guys shouldn't either. And then they're all saying, no, when you did that at the White House, I remember where I was when I saw that, and you're a hero to me because of what you did and what you stood up for. And then Sophie Turner's saying that, and then he says that, he's like, yeah, I mean, ever since that that moment's happened, everything's changed for me. I mean, except that I live in my mom's basement. Well, actually everything's pretty much the same. So it's just he has that great comedic timing. So I think Evan Peters as Quicksilver will definitely have plenty of great moments. I'm hopeful though that Ty Sheridan can steal it for me as Cyclops, just because of his visual style, and he's probably the best actor of the bunch.
I haven't seen him in anything else other than this.
He's in Mud's his biggest role.
Okay.
Which I believe still on Netflix. It's him and McConaughey, and I think it's Reese Witherspoon's in there, very briefly. And then it's him and one other kid. But he's a really talented actor, and he's going to be in Spielberg's Ready Player One.
That's right.
So I'm hopeful for him. And I think also, I mean, rewatching X2 a couple of days ago and the Nightcrawler scene in the White House, I just want to see similar kind of stuff from Cody McPhee version of Nightcrawler, because his power is just so unique. I would love to see just more of that happen and how it's used in combat, especially. And then we'll move to kind of hit Apocalypse and his 4 horsemen. He's got Angel, played by Ben Hardy, Alexandra Shipp playing Storm, and obviously Fassbender's Magneto, and the 4th, as you mentioned earlier, Olivia Munn as Psylocke. So I think Psylocke's going to be your favorite from what it sounds
absolutely.
I'm hoping she is mine. I hope Alexandra Shipp is also a great Storm. She has a lot to live up to with Halle Berry's portrayal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, those two, Magneto's going to be great, I think, regardless.
Right. We know Fassbender. We know Magneto.
But yeah, these two are coming into the franchise. Let's see what they can do. Hopefully, we already know Storm's we're going to be around for the long haul. She's already confirmed to be New Mutants and everything. Psylocke, I'm still hopeful somehow she ends up on the X-Force movie.
Absolutely.
I mean,
don't kill her off.
Yeah, just jump her 40. This movie takes place in the 80s, so jump her 30 years in the future, and then she's brought to present day, and then she can be with Deadpool.
Or
That'd be
jump
cool.
Deadpool back 20 years, Benjamin Button, meet them in the middle type thing, and have,
That'd be
I don't
weird.
know, Cable can time travel.
Yeah, you can. So there's plenty of opportunities.
Wow, the X-Men love time travel, don't
Yep.
they?
They just love to do whatever they can,
Exactly.
no matter how confusing it could be.
Sure.
And obviously, one character that has already gotten a lot of buzz, even though he's probably only in it for one scene, is Hugh Jackman has a cameo as Wolverine.
Yes,
as
he does.
Spoiled by the trailers. It looks very much connected to his Weapon X origin. I think Bryan Singer's even confirmed such a thing, that it is basically the retelling of that, and somehow Jean Grey and I think it's Cyclops are also in the same base.
They
work with
there?
him. I don't know. They're just in their regular street clothes, and then Wolverine comes in all berserker mode and kills a bunch of people in front of him.
That's what I'm talking about, where the story is just I don't know how they're gonna do that.
Nope.
But I'm glad he's in it. I want that to be known.
Yeah, I think that'll probably be a great scene, especially if he is just like full on rage and just killing dudes left and right. That's always fun to see.
Or hurting them a lot. I don't know if they'll be killing. No, they'll be killing.
When does Wolverine not kill people?
I just watched X2. He stabs the heck out of a lot of guys.
Yeah, Wolverine's not. He's definitely not Daredevil, where he doesn't kill.
Batman.
Yeah, he straight up kills a lot of people, and I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all the characters. Really, we left out a couple like Jubilee, and like we didn't really talk about Havoc or anything, or Rose Byrne's character, but we don't really have time. And they're probably going to have pretty small roles anyways, so there's not a lot of point in spending a lot of time discussing their potential 2 minutes of screen time.
Right.
So we'll end with some speculation. First off, it can't be a movie, especially a superhero movie, and be called Apocalypse, and somebody in the overall cast, not necessarily an X-Men or one of the Four Horsemen, somebody has to die, right?
I would think so.
So who is it?
I feel like it's going to be two of the Horsemen. And
okay.
I mean, I think all of the X-Men make it out fine. I have a hard time believing that they off anybody.
If it's two of the Horsemen, we know they're not killing Fassbender.
Mm-hmm. We know they're not killing Storm.
And Storm's not dying.
Yep.
So
I know it's going to be Angel and Munn that are going to get taken down, despite my desperate hope that I'm wrong and they actually off like Beast or somebody else,
Ooh.
which I don't think they'll do.
No,
But
I
they
can't see that.
could. But they could.
They
and
could.
I don't know that he has a does he have a contract for New Mutants? I don't.
He
think
does
so.
not.
Okay.
So
If they kill
all of the first class X-Men's contracts are up after this movie. So it already seems like McAvoy's re-upped. Fassbender sounds likely to re-up.
Mm-hmm.
And then Holt is, we haven't heard anything about him.
Could that be the reason?
Could be. And then, but I don't think
I don't
think he's dying.
No, I don't think so either. I really think they're going to take care of Munn and Angel.
Okay, I do think Angel will die, but I think Psylocke's a possibility, but I'm not sure if they'll actually do it or not.
Out of 100%, what would you give it? Possible chance.
I'm at that she's dying.
Yeah, I'm at 65.
Oh, okay. So that's not that high. I would say it's like 40%.
Really? Okay.
Chance that she dies. And then, but the one I do think is going to die is, I think Havoc's dying. Because one, he's shown when Professor X gets taken, he's there with them, I believe. But then he's not with them in the final battle. So why would he just not come? Also, in the comics, him and Cyclops are brothers, but in the movies, I don't think they actually are. So they you got to explain around that somehow, and the easiest way is just to off him, so that way you don't have to actually deal with it. Plus, Lucas Till is the new MacGyver on TV, so he's gonna have be spending a lot of time on that. So just scheduling, I think it makes more sense to kill him. So yeah, I think it's gonna be Till and Hardy are the biggest chances. Plus, I think Apocalypse will die and not be somehow live on.
Yeah, or he'll be defeated if there's like a piece of him that's like lying around somewhere that's that's like, oh, this part survived. He could come back.
Yeah,
type deal. I think that's the most possible chance of him, quote unquote, surviving.
Yeah. So then, with those people dead and other people still alive, who are the X-Men at the end?
Well, I think we have Beast, even though I think he's going to survive.
So it's a zombie Beast. So we're bringing zombies into the X-Men universe.
Well, like he's like, well, like I said, I don't think he's dying, but he could die.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be Beasts. I think obviously Professor X, Storm, Jean, Cyclops. I think Mystique stays around. Then Nightcrawler, Quicksilver, and Jubilee. Is that okay? Yeah, and I think that's the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have very similar. I mean, I'm not going to consider Jubilee an X-Men just because I don't think he's going to have that big of a role.
Sure.
So for her to go from like no role to X-Men team member,
well, why is she there? That's my question.
I don't know. Maybe she's set up. Maybe she'll be in New Mutants.
Yeah.
I don't know, or the next X-Men movie. Not really sure, but I already kind of talked about how I thought the X-Men team was going to be a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, when that photo dropped.
And it's, I think Professor X and Beast are just kind of going to be overseers of the team, not actually go out on duty. I mean, Charles doesn't really go out on duty ever anyways, but Beast does look like he will here. But I think he'll stay back, become a teacher and kind of maybe go on that trajectory of being a government person like he is in the original trilogy.
Yeah, the ambassador
maybe
type
that
guy.
I don't know if that actually is going to happen or not, but I think they'll maybe do something similar to that. And then the team is going to be Raven's the leader, and then you got Quicksilver, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Jean, and Storm rounding out. So you got her and a bunch of young and inexperienced, they'll be experienced after fighting Apocalypse, but relatively unexperienced mutants who, when this movie ends, they'll be gearing up, kind of like, I think it's going to end very similar to Age of Ultron, where the battle's defeated, and then we travel through the X-Men mansion, and Raven's giving the speech that she's giving in the trailers about you're not whatever, you're X-Men now. And then the end of that speech is going into what's the simulation room? It has a name, but I can't remember what it is.
Yeah.
Going into that room, and then they're all standing there, and we get like a hero panning shot of all of them together in their new costumes. And then it ends, and we get credits. Then we get a post-credit scene, and we're out.
Sounds good to me. I mean,
so I think that's how it'll go down. Whether I'm right or not, we'll have to wait and see. Movie comes out. I'll be seeing it Thursday night for the premiere. And if it's good, maybe we'll see it again before we review it. Any other final, speculations, thoughts on Apocalypse?
Yeah, I said this a while back to you, and you called me crazy, but I'm going to go ahead and shout it out on the podcast, because if it turns out that I'm right, maybe I'm right. Is there any possible chance that Wolverine in this movie is not Hugh Jackman?
Is there any chance? If we're doing the percentage game like we did with Psylocke dying, I'll give you a 0% chance that is anybody.
I'm just trying to figure out what this whole new direction thing that Bryan Singer was talking about.
I think the new direction is getting away from these like
Wolverine's a nice guy kind of thing.
We're getting away from like Wolverine being like a stable member of the X-Men, like Mystique and Beast and Professor X being that group, and instead the new wave is this new team that arrives at the end.
And it'll set up sort of the tone of Wolverine 3.
Yeah, I guess. Those are our thoughts. And that's going to be the end of this special episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll keep doing preview episodes for bigger movies. If you have one in particular you want us to do one on, we're open to suggestions. Just let us know. You can tweet it to us or put it in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. But if you want to tweet to us, you can find us at Friends and Film. You can follow me on Twitter at Coops_hoops.
And you can find me on Twitter, Josh at Straley Strong.
Yeah, and be sure to go watch X-Men Apocalypse before next week. That's what we'll be reviewing. So thanks for listening to this. Share, like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Let us know if you like. We put up a separate review without any news on YouTube. So if you guys like that, it's kind of splitting up the episode a little bit. Let us know. Any feedback's welcome. Give us a review on iTunes. That'd be greatly appreciated. Just be sure to go watch X-Men Apocalypse before we return in, like 4 or 5 days when you guys are hearing this, with a review of X-Men Apocalypse.